Welcome to the Hidden Potential Podcast. I'm your host, Omar Hargrove, and today I have a special guest, Lauren Pingad. And Lauren is somebody that I met when I was, if y'all remember, looking for a social media manager for my page for the church. And she reached out, and she is a professional when it comes to social media, but she also has a lot of other things that she handles and is on her plate. And so, rather than me saying it all, Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Homer, for having me here. A little bit about myself. Number one is I love eating a lot of food. So that should be one thing I have in common with everybody here listening in. But entrepreneurial wise, I love to just be a self-starter. Besides that, I'm a pretty active person, so I enjoy engaging in the gym as well as being outdoors, and I'm a total extrovert. So I love talking to people, getting to know new stories, and I don't drink caffeine, so people is my caffeine.
Wait, so to verify, you don't drink caffeine?
I do not drink caffeine.
So no coffee, no decaf, nothing like that?
Nothing. Nada.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Well, this is gonna be an awkward rest of this conversation, but it's gonna be okay. And so when it comes to this idea that you're talking about how you have this ambition being an entrepreneur, can you kind of unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. I think it comes down to what is the North Star? What is the end goal? And that is to essentially have time freedom to do anything that I'd like, aka that could be traveling, that could be spending more time with my family, as well as helping those that I feel that I can help out. So essentially, the flexibility to do anything that my heart desires. Now, in terms of what I'm currently doing and how can I do that right now, thankfully, as a social media manager as well as a content creator, I do have the flexibility to be remote and work from wherever I want to while helping people out. So I actually just came back from Kenya recently, and while I was out there, I was capable of helping out my clients whenever I needed and whenever they needed.
Well, that's really interesting. I have a couple questions. One, how did you get in internet connection? Is it just like readily available over there? Do you have like Starlink? How were you being able to do that remotely? And what kind of PC are you running on? Is it just like a normal, plain Jane laptop, or do you have kind of like a heavy duty one?
It is actually just your plain Jane MacBook Air. No heavy duty PC at all. While I was in Kenya, I was staying at hotels, Airbnb, so they provided a Wi-Fi network source. So it was pretty easy, nothing too complicated. Just got to make sure when you are booking that it does say, yes, we provide Wi-Fi, and then you're all set.
Okay, great. And now the other question is, what were you doing in Kenya in the first place? Is it just like personal visit? I mean, were you visiting family? What's going on in Kenya that brought you there?
What first got me there was actually my friend, my childhood friend was going to get married there. So she married a Kenyan. They did one in Chicago already for the family here in the States, but they wanted to do another wedding for the husband's family. Um, that actually turned into a wedding trip, and then it pivoted a little bit more because the husband wanted to do a travel business where he takes people, groups of people on safari trips, things like that. So they kind of turned it into a test run for whether or not this business is something that they could do together. So I would say it's a wedding trip mixed with a trial run for their personal business endeavors. But while I was there, I actually do have a cousin that lives out there doing what is it called? Just general health education for the communities out there.
Wow, that's great. And I what strikes me about that is you're talking about this like entrepreneur idea of from your friend. And I think that, I think about like the saying about you are who your friends are. And so when it comes to your ambition in being an entrepreneur and not just going about like the daily grind, how has that been when it comes to navigating friendships? Like, I have in mind that like when you have friends that you've known for a long time versus friends that you just now meet, there's also this mixture of where y'all are headed and where you're going. And it doesn't always meet this connect. Can you kind of like unpack what that's like for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a different experience for everybody. It's not cookie cutter. Um, because for example, myself, I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, but last November, I did move out to Madison, Wisconsin, which is approximately 2.5 to 3 hours away from the Chicago downtown area. And that's where I have majority of my network, my friend bases. Now, some people think, oh, that's really great. Lauren is going away so that she could totally focus in on her work. That way she could come back all set up, really ready to go and live comfortably with her friends with all the distractions because she's all set. Systems are all in place, yada, yada, yada. Some other people who maybe I've spent more time with in person, I found it very disrupting to their own lives because it's like, oh, okay, I don't have this piece that was there every single day. For example, I used to go to cafes with my remote working friends every day, and we'd work there all day long. Now that's not something that they're able to do with me anymore. So they feel like, okay, there's a little bit of a disconnect between Lauren and I now because we're not doing something constantly. So they feel like there's some distance between us. So that has negatively impacted the relationship. And it's not personal, it's merely just business because I'm out here. I've separated myself so that I can just make sure I'm good in the long run. That way I can really pour myself into those relationships that I truly care about. So I remind them all the time, hey, it's really just personal. I mean, it's really just business, not personal. Um, if it was personal, then I would let them know. I'm a pretty straightforward person. So if I ever have an issue with someone or I find something a little bit off, I do let people know. So that's a little bit more about me.
Okay, great. I like how you clarify for everybody, anyone that might see you on this, they're like, yeah, I haven't seen her in a while. And you're just like, I mean, it's business, not personal. It's you, it's me, not you. I like how you clarify
Hmm.
that. And when it comes to this direction, I feel like it's not necessarily everybody that has this desire to pursue that kind of self-employment, that entrepreneur mentality. What do you think, other than this idea of like sense of freedom, like where does that come from? Why do you even have that sense of freedom? Is it something that happened in your childhood? Is it part of your upbringing? Are your parents like that? What was it that you would feel like inspired this idea of having that kind of ambition and pursuit?
That's a really great question. I grew up actually with a single mother, so she was already super independent, self-starter. Um, she was employed 9 to 5 up until maybe 3 years ago. And on the side, she's an artist, so she loves to create bags, leather bags. She recently bought an embroidery machine, so she's trying to do something new again. So she's just always just been um, a leader in herself, just to take charge. If something's going wrong, she's gonna do it. Um, Whenever first or here's a funny story. So when she was younger, when the radio and the telephones just came out and she was just calling her friends all night long, right? Her mom came in and she's like, "You need to go to bed," and then came in with the scissors and cut the wire from the telephone to the outlet. And by the next morning, she had it fixed by
Oh,
herself
wow.
without YouTube or anything. So
Man, that pissed me
um
off as a parent. It's like be
right.
proud, but like, God dang.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about her. I think I've gotten some stuff from her in terms of just being a self-starter, doing things my own. And now I guess when it comes to why do I do that now? Um, I think it's just fun. I think it's really fun. It
Mm,
allows me to tap into a creative part in my brain that not too many other people get to do. Like for example, when people are working, and I'm this is a very generalized statement, right? People that work 9 to 5, they have to follow a certain accord system, systems of operations, right? Um, there's no room to work outside of that box. And I used to be a rock climber, and often people would say that, oh, Lauren, you think in a very different way that is super duper clearly, it's super duper clear that you do think outside of the box. It's super different. And all of my friends that were climbing with me are on that 9 to 5. So they would climb in a very mm, how should I describe it? Um, I don't want to say not in a creative way, but it was a very simple, very clear route.
like textbook
Whereas mine
way.
was, yeah, yeah. Whereas mine was a little bit more not so textbook,
Right.
if you could say. Yeah.
I find that really I find it interesting where you're picking up notes of it being like led by your mom, who obviously has this grind to where not only is she working 9 to 5, but going the extra mile and trying to get the side hustle too. And and I think it's interesting how you talk about how this like this reference of her her strength is noted in her childhood about being something that would get her in trouble. And I feel like often the things that get us in trouble as kids are actually the strengths that just need to be funneled in the right direction. And as you're talking about how it really inspired you to pursue this different path, and there's nothing wrong with, working that 9 to 5. It gives
Mhm.
stability, it gives expectations, it's not that there's something wrong with it, but that's why it's so common to go to that. Where it feels inspiring or peculiar even when someone kind of breaks away from the line. And in doing that, what was like that beginning moment for you to where you made this transition, or where, I mean, were you always just, entrepreneur? Did you have that kind of ability, or was there a moment in which you switched? You're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this. What was that journey like?
Yeah, before I go into that journey, I do want to agree with you about, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a part of a 9 to 5. It has so many perks to it. Healthcare. I don't even have healthcare. So I would love to have that, right? But I don't, and that's just because you're on the grind. I'm on the grind, and there's just some things that you have to live without first for the beginning part, right? There's no security, and if you can have a 9 to 5 and achieve all of the goals that you have in life, great. Do it. You're happy. Oh, like you're fantastic. Now there are people that are thinking about entrepreneurship, and I have a bunch of friends that are currently thinking about starting a business, and they're like, Lauren, how do you do it? And I'm just like, man, it really comes down to number one, perseverance, and number two, accountability. Are you willing to take yourself through uh, the mud, right? And try to come out of it still having mud on yourself for the next several years. And then finally, at the end, you can clean yourself off and live a very happy life. Um, and in terms of, how did I get started? Um, Great question. I would say I did try to start something in high school, but I was a varsity athlete, so doing academics, sports, and everything else combined, it's really hard as a student to do business at the same time. And I find it really respectable when I come across a student that is capable of making uh, or generating a lot of revenue while being a student at the same time, and especially being an athlete too, because that takes time management to the max, as well as just organizational skills to the max. Like you've got to have everything on top tier, uh, I guess level.
Right.
So I guess where did it truly start? Um, this might be a common story that some other entrepreneurs may have faced, but you get yourself into a pyramid scheme like business. And that teaches you a lot. It teaches you the most, more than college or whatever course could ever teach you. By doing it, by actually executing it out, will teach you all the necessary things that you need to have in order to run a successful business. So, what was that pyramid like scheme? It's technically not, but it's it's seen as one quite often. And that is CollegeWorks painting. And through that, I was able to run my own painting business. I did a lot of my projects in the Wilmette, Winnetka area, so a lot of luxury homes. So through that, I learned how to, number one, do sales. My first job that I ever closed totaled amount to around like 30K, if not a little bit more. And I was 20 years old at the time, and I had not
Wow.
known what this check was that this person had given me for their down payment. And I was like, okay, am I doing something right? I think I'm doing something right.
I think I just
So
sold drugs.
yeah, actually. And then, you just go through that sales time phase, and things were looking really great. And then, of course, everybody will go through this dry season where you don't really make a sale. And that was really tough to go through. And um, during that time, you'll get a couple more wins and figure, okay, what is it that I'm doing wrong? How can I make myself better? So that was a really important time for me to understand how to find what people value, how to make sure they understand the product and how it can actually help them the most. Because at the end of the day, if they're looking for a service, it doesn't matter what the price is. It really comes down to, okay, is it the color that matters, or is it they want to find someone that respects their house the most? Because if I'm painting a house, maybe they're not there, that's the largest asset that they have probably, which is their home, right? So they want someone that is going to be respectful of their property, respectful of their neighbors, yada, 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 right? So we have to understand what is it that they truly value. So I got to understand that aspect of sales. Now comes the time where I have to now actually provide the service of painting. So before I do have to provide that service, I have to now do some HR stuff. That is hiring some people to paint the homes, do the service for me, because I can't do 70K worth of projects in one whole season by myself. That would be ridiculously hard. I would make a lot of money, but that's not the way to live. Now, through there, I got to make some mistakes and make some right decisions. I hired the wrong people, I hired the right people. Now I know in the future and even now what to look for when I do bring on a person to help me, as well as not everybody can become friends, right? Not everybody can get along. Um, so understanding that, as well as you can't really be a people pleaser to everybody. So finding out who is the right match for you when you're trying to provide a service. So learned a lot through there, and then providing the service, had great clients, had terrible clients. And now I know, okay, what's the type of people that I want to work with, and who are the people that I don't really want to spend that time and energy battling with, right? Rather than providing that service, because we want to provide the service, right? What we don't want to do is battle with them. That's the last thing we ever want to do. So figuring out, okay, what is that? So I got to learn a lot about that through there. And then just client relationship, rapport building, doing all that stuff, which is actually super duper important when it comes to upselling. I was able to upsell on all of my projects, thankfully, and that doing the rapport, being successful with upsells taught me a lot about, okay, how can I make this business even better for the next seasons and for the clients in the future moving forward. So I did that for a season, poured all of those skills that I had developed into my next couple of ventures. So after that, it was COVID. So then I started a face mask business. Ended up collaborating with the CDC, doing a live interview on CNN. Super duper cool. After that, there was a new demand since not a lot of people were wearing face masks as often as they used to. So I started running a networking events business because pandemic, we can't really talk to one another, engage with one another. A lot of the connections kind of broke away. So now we need to create new connections. So that was the current demand. So I started with a specific niche that was photographers, did a lot of networking events for them. Demand completed. Everybody has their networks, their communities now. Now it's the new question. Okay, how do I help people out now? So all through that, there's marketing, right? Uh, with the painting business, I forgot to mention I did door-to-door marketing in the middle of the
Nice.
winter. So my knuckles were purple. So I started with that, but there was also social media stuff that I did through that for that and for my other ventures. And now last year I was wondering, okay, what do I do for business now? Okay, let's do social media because I know that like the back of my hand. Also, I'll be completely transparent. I had a corporate job after I graduated college, and I was there for about a year, and I was let go during the time where the job market was absolute crap, and that made getting a new job extremely difficult, which further pushed me into the entrepreneurship world once again to start the social media management agency. So hopefully that wasn't too long and I didn't talk your ear off about about the
No,
journey of getting to where I am. But yeah.
I think that there's a lot of things to pull from that because um, one, you started off with this idea that you painted this picture of how the grind of being an entrepreneur, that it like you're choosing to still work but in a different way, that you may no longer be working for the man per se, but now you are dealing with like now you have to deal with anxiety of how you're going to pay your bills. Like now you're throwing off this sense of job security and you're trading it for like, yes, I get to have freedom now, as well as this chain to it's all on me and this need for accountability because it could all just crumble if I don't show up. I don't just get reprimanded or called into the boss's office. I My life could be over. And it's like such a higher level of willing anxiety that you're going to be enduring. And I think that the road that you shared, it shows a lot of different things that really are supplemental to that pursuit. You're talking about being in athletics, and I'm a big believer that athletics help, that the discipline of athletics really help cultivate the disciplines in entrepreneurship. It's like those disciplines bleed over. And when I'm
Mhm.
more consistent, when I'm consistent in like my workout routine or, whatever that goes in with that physical exercise, I feel it bleeds over into everything else to where even like on my biggest work day is like a church day to where I have to prepare the message, or not, the message is prepared before Sunday, but I have to preach the message, and it's like the biggest workload. And like studies show that even just 1 hour of talking is like an 8 hour workday. And I used to just like, oh, like maybe if you're out of sheep, but no, no lie. Like I'm exhausted after doing talks and speaking. And be that as it may, even though it's my most exhausting day, I start the day with a workout because it makes me feel like empowered for the day. Like I can do this. I took control in the at 6 a.m. this morning. I can take hold of this day for the rest of it. And it really just it bleeds over. It just bleeds over. And the way that you're talking about crappy jobs, well, I don't know if you're saying like crappy jobs for the like the I've heard a lot worse network marketing companies than that. That was like, oh, actually, maybe I could get into that. It's like a, it sounded like pretty, but there's a lot of terrible network marketings that kind of like take ploy on people's desire for that freedom, but almost like use it against them to where they're too timid to actually start their own job. And so they get a network marketing gig to where they tell you like own your own business, but not really. Like we're actually gonna just tell you exactly what to say and give you the script, and you're gonna just really just be our little brick in this pyramid. And but here you are talking about how you're learning from these experiences. You were young, fresh, and willing to try anything. And as you go through the grind of this network marketing company, doing door knocking, I've done door knocking, and I have respect for everybody that has been door knocking before. It is a brutal business, and you got a lot of people that are just mean or like. But now that I'm in my own home, whenever people knock on my door, I have to refresh myself. Like, all right, don't be mean to them. This was you once. Like, and
Mhm.
that constant facing of conflict. Every door that you're knocking, you are facing conflict. You are facing the fear of rejection. You are having to face what most people fear one right after another, and it is building up this endurance. It's building up this endurance to where you do that for so long to where it makes you have almost like this strength to do the next thing. And I think that's what's pivotal within your journey is the way that you're describing that you're learning from these experiences. And I think that when people try to step out and fail, which like 99% of the times we're going to probably fail, the first time, or we might get lucky and it might work out and then we'll fail the fourth time. It's like it makes me think about when I was in sales and I would make one sale door knocking and I'm like, yes, oh my, I can sell anything. I am the best salesman ever. I can sell bricks to a brick maker, like I can do it. And then I would get rejected the next door and I'd be like, I might as well just crash into a tree. I suck. Like I can't sell anything. I wouldn't be able to sell a sack of potatoes in a famine. Like I would just, it was like
Mhm.
the highs and lows were so extreme. But
Yeah.
when the way that you're talking about learning from these experiences is rather than getting so self-destructive in our thoughts and going into this mental depravity of really just analyzing saying like, okay, what didn't go good right now? Why did it not go good? Were they having a bad day? Did I say it wrong? Should I have done it this way? Or should I have done it that way? And trying to simply get better at it rather than thinking like I'm cursed. I should have never done this. And we get so dramatic to where we disqualify ourselves and we talk ourselves out of something that we could have actually been good at. It could have been really good, but we experience that initial failure and we just get so emotional about it and we make it our identity. And I think it's just so pivotal the way you're saying like that. You're learning even from these places that you didn't necessarily enjoy or like, and you're even thinking about like, okay, how does the HR work? How does the system work? What is their script they're using? Why are they saying it this way? Why are they doing it that way? And you're looking at how you can take opportunity in the next room. And that's like the biggest, a big thing that you're talking about too, is how you've had multiple ventures that you've entered into going to the next one. And I think sometimes when we imagine self-employment or entrepreneur starting a business, we almost imagine it as like having a baby. Like I just got to have this one business and this represents my value. This is my validity in this business. And it's this one thing that I got to just nurture and take care of. When sometimes it's like, get out, we're going to the next thing. Like wait, this worked for a little bit, but now you're kicked out of the house and you're dead to me now. What now? I'm going to start this new baby, and you just plop it on the pedestal and like, now this is the golden calf that we're going to go to now. And you got to just kind of have this sense of variety and willing to shake things up, like willing to to be aware and present of what is the potential next opportunity. If this isn't working anymore, maybe I should go to the next one. Does that mean that you should always just abandon it when it doesn't work? No, it might just be a dry season. You got to endure. But
Hmm.
this idea of taking opportunity when it's in front of you, and that is like this gold standard that anyone that has that kind of idea or intuition inside of them, the inspiration of looking at where is opportunity and trying to follow that in a way that fits your passion. So I think that's really you laid out a really great journey for people to be able to take and understand and learn from. It's really powerful stuff. And when it comes to your role right now, like right now, you're talking about how you're doing social media, and you described how like you know it like the back of your hand. And when I talked to you first about it, out of all the different people I interviewed, and I interviewed people, there's everybody and their mother apparently is a social media manager when I put that ad out. And you're one of the very few people that seemed really competent in and confident in what you were talking about. And you seem like a legitimate professional. And that's why wanted to even have you on this podcast because the confidence that you have about it and that you're not just another person that seem like they like social media and maybe I could do that too. Like you are legit about it. Can you kind of talk about how you found out that you're good at social media and being a social media manager and how did it kind of like transition to where it's this like business venture of yours in this season of your life? Today's episode is brought to you by my new book, Feed My Sheep, a 90-day devotional, is out now. You can order it either on my website, homerhargrove.com, or you can order it on Amazon. And if you do, please leave a rating and review letting me know what you think about the book. It really would mean a lot to me, and it really helps support this channel. Again, that is Feed My Sheep. That being said, let's get back to today's episode.
Great question. First, thanks for the compliments. I really appreciate it. Um, I, social media is such a crazy thing in our world today, right? Now, let, let's start very simple. Uh, to understand something very confidently, right? How do we get there? Now, let's go from a standpoint where everybody can understand. A baby crawling to walking, right? How can they get to walking and be really good at walking? Now, it takes number one for them to be good at crawling first, right? They need to get really good at the mobility using those new muscles that they've been given, right? And that they're forming. And once they've got that down, they're going to fail along the way. Crawling is hard. If you do it now, you're gonna be like, oh, my knees and my elbows, they hurt everywhere, right? So I would say, like, maybe I'm really bad at crawling right now, but I'm good at walking, right? But anyways, back to the analogy, right? Now we get to this the phase where they start getting to their knees and getting to their feet, right? It's now building those foundational muscles. A lot of people don't understand whenever they have hip or knee problems. It's actually probably stemming from their feet or their ankles. Uh, Something's wrong there. Maybe something's dislocated. Maybe they're not pointing their toes inward enough, or maybe they just don't have a lot of ankle muscles developed there that they need, um, things like that. And baby doesn't have a lot of those things. So they have to work through the stuff that they don't have. So it's all trial and error, going through that for a very long time. Right. It takes months. Thankfully, I was running by 9 months. So I think I got it down pretty quickly. But on average, babies take quite more time, right, to just start walking. Um, so overall, it really comes down to trial and error, as well as who teaches the baby to walk, to even crawl. and that in between phase, and to provide that support. That's mom and dad. Now, for me, through social media, what is that? Um, I don't think I had too much of the parental units to teach me about social media, right? But what is it that really helped me be or help me with that support? Number one, that is YouTube. YouTube is absolutely fantastic. And number two is, uh, I believe I would say it's just uh, surrounding yourself with others that have that same goal in mind. And thankfully, I have other entrepreneurial friends that are trying to achieve the same thing. Thankfully, I educated myself in like internship programs, not me participating in internship programs, but me hosting an internship program. So I was able to bring people into my business and pay them through sponsorships and others. And through them, I was able to create different test ABs and whatever, and seeing the results through there and tweaking it here and there so that in the end, we've gotten a very fleshed out process of how to increase follower, how to increase engagement, things like that. So, um, number one is just trial and error. Number two is find that support so that you can learn how to walk. And then once you've gotten all the support that you need, you've gotten all the general foundational muscles built in. Now you can start running a little bit more and experiment, right? When someone becomes competent in something, someone becomes confident in something, they've probably developed their own style, right? Let's look at athletes. Uh, at let's say Olympics, when they're at the starting line for let's say a 100-meter dash, um, you'll notice that there's something different about every single person in each lane. That's their starting blocks. Not everyone will have their starting block in the same place, nor will they have it in the same height, nor even will they start with the same leg. Some people start with the left leg, some people start with the right leg. So that's their own style that they run in. Nobody takes the same steps. So figuring out, okay, what is that style that you are going to be running in so that you can perform at the highest level possible that you can, right? So I think that hopefully that helps paint the picture. I'm a very visual person when it comes to explaining things. So I hope that helps you and other people understand where I'm trying to get in and how I've come to where I am to become confident in social media. So building the foundations, having the resources, testing, trial and error. Now having that time to figure out, okay, what is my style? How can I help people? How can I really perform the best way possible and efficiently? Um, so yeah.
That's great. And I love your honesty too about how you really did your own research and um like I get compliments on the different things that I do as like extensions for like my website. Like I love it when people compliment my website. The best compliment I ever got was someone said, I had to double check to see if it was a church or a brewery. And I was like, hell yeah, like I got a legit website. And
Nice.
from doing stuff like that to social media engagement, even for myself, like creating graphics, and a lot of it was just like me needing to figure it out. And that's really what I hear you describing is this sense that you want to do something, and so you just figure it out. And it's this idea of being willing to do something that's new for you, being willing to become an expert quickly, and through the trial and error, you really just end up working out the edges. You start working out and smoothing those rough parts to where you get this thing that is better than a lot of others initial where they're at in their journey. And it's you're able to help catapult people forward through this work that you're doing, and because you already put in the grind yourself. And I love how you're describing this idea of helping people, and that's really what it is. And when I think that so often when we start this journey of trying to start a business or start an entrepreneurship, whatever it is that sometimes we think about how can it serve me? And I feel like that we always end up falling short when it's that mentality. But when we look at how could this thing that I'm trying to do, it will serve me, yes, but how can it best serve others? How can I help others? And I think that that is such a powerful foundation that people need when it comes to starting their venture and establishing how to really go about it. And it makes me even think about like the books that I wrote this year. And when I first started writing books, or start when I first started trying to write a book before, I feel like it was more summed up into this kind of like self-identity conflict. It was really me creating a book that no one was necessarily asking for. Like, could it have been beneficial? Yeah, but I feel like it was more so me trying to find validity, feel valid. It was me trying to get validated, me trying to prove myself. And it really, there'd be times where I wrote, I would type out so many pages, and I was like, I feel like this sucks. Like I poured out my heart, and I was going through it, and I was like, what is this? Who actually wants to read this? What is this really going? And it took me a while to really kind of settle back to the simple idea. It's like, well, who is this for? Who am I actually helping through this? And I realized that, man, I'm just really trying to sound intelligent. I'm like trying to sound smart, or like I'm trying to share experiences, but I'm not really trying to help anyone. And it really helped me. That led me to reset myself to where I never necessarily thought of doing devotional, but I felt like, well, that would really help people. People really like devotionals, and it was my first book, and people loved it. People really were receptive, and I was even surprised at some of the people's feedback. I read a couple of pages, like, oh man, I should have wrote that differently. That was so stupid. Why did I say it like that? And then I would get a text that same day about that same page, and people say, oh, this is exactly what I need. I was like, woo, okay, great. And then going into the next book, and then even the
Right.
latest book I wrote about the forever and ever, and it's about building marriage, a resilient marriage. And it's like it's not something I necessarily thought I would get into, but I had a lot of people asking me about doing marriage classes and doing premarital classes. Like not as much. It was like this unique moment where I had several people asking about this thing. I was like, well, maybe I should just write a book about it so it could help these people and anyone else. And it ended up just kind of being this very organic and natural, beautiful thing. And it was based in this simple idea of how can I help these people that are already in my sphere of influence. It was something that I already have that I have this experience in. How could I better foster that? So I really like this idea of being willing to learn and figure it out. For these books, to be honest, I never knew how to go about writing a book. I had to research it. I didn't know how to go about publishing. I didn't know how to go about any of those things. And rather than just throw my hands up like, well, I don't know, I just like, well, let me figure it out, and just not being so dramatic about it and just going forward. I don't have anyone to help. Okay, well, let's just do it and figure it out. And you're
Yep.
able to really take the steps of things that you want to do, and rather than years and years and years going by of still saying, well, one day I really want to do this, one day I really want to start a business, one day I really want to write a book. It's like after I wrote my first book, I felt like so many people were like, I've always wanted to write a book. It's like I would have never guessed. Like I would have never took you for a secret author. But it's this just all this waiting because people feel like, well, I don't know where to start. Well, Lauren just said that you could just go to YouTube and figure it out. And I feel like
Yep.
so many different things is that, and it's very like applicable to so many other things. I
Hmm.
my car battery broke down. My car broke down yesterday, right before I had to go to a recovery center. And I was like, oh frick. Like I don't know if it's an alternator or the car battery. And I
Hmm.
ended up finding out it was like the wires. And it was just like I never was a mechanic before. Like I was actually a jet engine mechanic. So think about that the next time you
Oh,
get on a
okay.
plane. But it was like no skills. I had no like special training. It's just like, well, I guess I'm gonna
Hmm.
figure this out. And if we take that approach, I think that we'll feel a lot more fulfilled in these different ventures and this different like things. Like we don't have to make excuses like, oh, I came from a broken home, so I don't know what it's like to be married. Well, that doesn't matter. You can just figure it out. Oh, I never had a good mom or dad, so I don't know how to be a good mom and dad. I wouldn't be a good parent. No, you can just figure it out. It's like we don't have to keep eliminating ourselves from things that we would like to do just because we don't know yet. So again, I
Mm.
feel a little passionate about it. But you
Yeah.
know, I really enjoyed being able to hear from you, hearing your stories and your illustrations. Now I can definitely see you being a painter now with all the different imagery that you've been able to give us today. I'm like, as you're describing the runners, I'm like seeing them in my mind. Like at first, it's just like a line of runners from a distance, and as you're describing, like, oh, like I'm now. It's like you painted the picture for me too. I'm like imagining their shoes and the way their
Hmm.
feet are. Really great. Before we get off this call today, you know, in the spirit of Halloween, what are your thoughts about ghosts?
That's a great question. Before I answer that question, I do want to add on a little bit to
Yeah,
what
go
you were
ahead.
saying earlier. I think you've mentioned a really important thing about how people just are so afraid to start, right? And I think that comes down to, oh, I'm not perfect at something, right? Uh, it's so funny. Whenever I'm trying to start something new, and I just present it to my friends who aren't entrepreneurs, they'll say like, oh, if I were you, I wouldn't provide something, a product or a service that I'm not great at yet.
Mm,
But if I talk to somebody that has done a business before, that is an entrepreneur, they'd be like, just do it. You're going to learn along the way, right? So something really important is that if you want to start something, do not take advice from people that you don't want to be like or become,
mm,
right? It's only going to limit you from doing what you need to do in order to be that, right? And I think a lot of the times the people that aren't entrepreneurs, they lean on their managers so much. They lean on all the resources that their company provides them to understand how to do something perfectly. Whereas as an entrepreneur, there's no such thing as perfect when you're starting out. You have to create perfection yourself. And
yeah.
who says there's perfection even here in this world, right? But we can only become really great at it and do the best that we can. Now, in
Well,
terms of
I gotta say that
Halloween, hmm
before you explain your philosophy on ghosts, I gotta say that I really do agree with what you're saying. If I were to have listened to the advice of others who were not in the places I wanted to go, I would have never even married my wife. Like my wife is the most beneficial blessing gift amazing thing that's ever happened in my life besides my own walk with God and Jesus Christ. Like it, my wife is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And if I were to just listen to the people at the time that said I wasn't ready to get married or I needed to do this first, I needed, and it's this idea of like things need to be perfect first. And
mm.
granted, I'm not trying to tell anybody like, you know what, just forget everybody else, go marry someone. No, I'm not saying that, but is like I had this dream and this aspiration to marry my
Hmm.
best friend, and I felt like I'd found my best friend, and I had this vision that I wanted to experience life with somebody. I didn't want things to be perfect. I wanted to experience the ups and downs. I wanted to experience growing that life together with someone. And all the people that were giving me this advice were single. They were single. They were divorced. They were like lonely. They were older than me and like still
Uh-huh.
single. And I
Yeah.
just thought, well, that's not what I want. That's I don't want to be in their shoes. Why would I listen to their advice? And the
Hmm.
same goes for having kids. I wouldn't have had the kids I have today. And they're the most, again, life-giving thing that I've ever experienced. These beautiful children that I feel like I don't even deserve. And I would have never had them if I listened to the advice of others. I would have never started our
Yeah.
church. I would have never started the most amazing things in my life today wouldn't have happened if I listened to the people that were in a sense the naysayers. And I'm not saying that we don't listen to advice or wisdom. You know, we could take things with a grain of salt, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, sometimes people are just projecting their own philosophies onto us. And you got to just look like, do I want to be like them? These people giving me advice. So really, really identify with what you're saying. Now, please tell us about ghosts. We got to know.
Yeah, ghosts. Wow. Great, crazy question. I don't think I believe in ghosts. Um, well,
Wow. Whoa.
actually, let me take that back first. We have to identify what ghosts mean. So do
Okay.
we
Unpack that.
so do we do you what is the meaning of ghosts? Is it number one, dead people, their spirits still around? Or number two, is it demons that are trying to scare us? So which
So is it a ghost or a spirit? So there's, that's another thing. Is it just ghosts or is it spirits? Are they the same thing?
so I would identify ghosts as dead people, right? If we look at cartoons, right, they're commonly painted as okay, someone's in the ground, boom, and then who comes out of the ground after they're dead, right? It's their painted picture that isn't physical, right? So that's my definition of ghosts. I don't believe that as a Christian. I think they go somewhere else. Um, uh, but if I were to identify or define ghosts as, oh, it's demons that are here trying to, scare us, the way that, in movies, ghosts do scare people, right? Then I would agree. Yeah, I think it's demons as ghosts painted as ghosts that are in this world. So that is my philosophy
So,
on
so
ghosts.
let me ask this though. You've never
Uh-huh.
had like an ooga booga experience. You never had a moment where it's like, oh, like I kind of got the heebie-jeebies here. Like you never had something like that,
Oh no, I have. I totally have. Yeah.
but you just identify
Um,
as like this is a demon. You don't think like, oh, this is a ghost.
yeah, I think it's totally different, you know.
Yeah.
Um, if it was like um I don't know, if it was a dead person coming back, like that'd be crazy, right? I think that's not what the Bible says. So
Well, hold
um
on. Whoa, whoa. You want to think about this. When Saul goes to a medium and calls up Samuel's spirit, it says that she called up his ghosts. It says that his
mm, mm.
apparition appeared. So what do you say about that?
I don't deny that. I would say more of what is the process of our spirit leaving this world, right?
Mm.
Not someone calling it, right? So I guess what do you believe is the process after we decease, right?
Yeah. So then, so you're saying like when what happens after we die? Are we going straight to heaven or hell? Are we, in a waiting room in a lobby with some coffee and stuff? Like what's going on in this after
Yeah, yeah,
realm?
yeah. As someone that understands the Bible, please educate the not the viewers, the listeners.
Well, this is video too. This is video too. And well, I mean, there's some theology that could be mixed in. The place of Hades is known as like the holding place of souls. And so there's some theological views that because there's Sheol, there's Hades, and there's Gehenna. Gehenna is like the place that we think of as like HE double hockey stick, but Hades is like
Mhm.
this holding place. And so some people believe that when we die, our souls are in like this holding realm, awaiting judgment day. And there's like the scriptures in Revelation where it talks about how like even looking underneath the like underneath and seeing like all these souls so in white robes awaiting the day, and it's like this idea of these souls that are just waiting there. And then it's like the idea of even Samuel's like he was somewhere when he was called up, and what he says is, who awoke me from my sleep? So it's like, is it like this place where is like the spiritual sleep, like when you die, does it feel like you just woke up from a nap on judgment day? But like its time is absent from the eternal realm. Like that's why it says that one day is like 1,000 days to God, or 1,000 years. It's this idea that time is absent. So we're confined to time in our earthly
Hmm.
bodies, but in the spiritual world, there is no time. It's eternal. And
Yeah.
so perhaps that when you die, you just wake up, it may feel like instantly, but you are in the future on Judgment Day. But
Hmm.
like I shared this with someone else I asked the other week, is like, what if when you do use a medium and you like say call like it does in scripture, like Samuel, what if when you call up that soul like Samuel's, what if you disturb their like holding realm or whatever to where if they can't go back, like you got a Casper situation. And that's
Oh
why
no.
maybe that's why the Bible like talks about it being so evil, because you're actually disrupting like this soul realm and causing people
Mm.
to now wait for what feels like an eternity conscious in this ghost form, compared to it being like this sleep-like state. That's those are some
Mm.
possibilities here.
Where we're getting into the Marvel, we're getting into the Marvel multiverse kind of like situation, right? That I don't disagree with anything that you've said. I think everything that you're saying is right, right? They're like you said, oh, who woke me up from my slumber, right? And then there's that like holding place, but there's no time, right? So I think that's such a complex topic that only God truly understands, right? It's it's like asking um it's like asking like one, and maybe it's not just one verse, right? But a couple a handful of verses to paint the picture of like how does it work? But at the end of the day, it has to be God that, truly knows and can explain this to us. And we're just here in our own time, playing this guessing game of how can we interpret it? How can we understand this very out of this world piece, right? But no, that's a very fun question to ask, and get people thinking about, okay, what is a ghost? What is it that they do? Where do they go? Or if you define ghosts as people that have died and that's their non-physical form, what are they sitting? Where are they? So yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
super
At
fun
the end of the day,
question,
we're
and we
just
could
we're
go
just
for a
talking
long time.
trash. Yeah, we're just talking
Yeah.
trash. It's not like I know. I don't know. I'm just saying, like it's just, you know, I don't know anything. But there's some like ooga booga stuff.
Hmm.
There's even when
Oh
people say
yeah.
like say a good version of a ghost, they got like that little friendly Casper ghost that comes and visits
Hmm.
them. Or you talk about like people who feel like they saw their relative that and it made them feel comforted. It's
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
weird thing, but it's also like it's not like every culture has this idea and concept of like the afterlife and ghosts, and even like the
Hmm.
disciples when Jesus was walking on the water, they thought he was a ghost. It's like really interesting thing, but at the end of the day, we don't know anything. We're just talking trash, just getting in the spirit of Halloween, the devil's birthday, but we're just
Oh,
just
great.
talking trash at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, so then I have another question for you. If you could just change yourself, right? And it had to be permanent after Halloween, what would you become?
Whoa. If I had to change myself, like as far as like
Hmm.
from like one person to another, or like into something else entirely, like a different kind of creature.
Take the question as you like.
Whoa. I don't even know where to start. I feel like I'm living my best life. I don't even know.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able I don't know if I would want to change me as a like because I would, so ground rules is I wouldn't change my wife. That's for sure. Love you, baby.
Mm-mm.
And I wouldn't change my kids. That's for sure. But like in the make believe scenario, what would I be? I don't
So you
know.
know how people dress up as whatever
Yeah.
for Halloween. So it's you have your own self still here. Uh, You go trick-or-treating with the same people, right? Your family and
Yeah.
everyone, right? And it's just the appearance that changes.
Yeah, you know, well, the irony is that I joked with my wife about if we dress up for Halloween this year, that she should be a nun and I should be one of the priests, like with the collar. And so, but you know, maybe I wouldn't want to be like uh I feel like every other job is so boring. I would want to. I think I would want to do something that. What would I be? Man, that's a fun question. Either like a monkey, like a type of like gorilla. That'd be cool. I
Uh-huh.
feel like it would like just. I've always thought it'd be cool, like swinging from like the vines and
Mm.
trees. That'd be really. That
You
would be
could be
dope. I
like
just
Caesar from Planet of the Apes.
Yes, that would be see, I'll be Caesar. There we go. Because
Yeah.
then I could
Okay.
it looks like it's so much fun just swinging around. They have like this such
Hmm.
freedom. They're not paying taxes. Like it's just this total liberation and
Taxes.
and they just living life, just eating every time I seen a monkey eat fruit, it looks delicious. It looks like
Oh
they're like
yeah.
totally engaged in eating like
Hmm.
some like with full enjoyment and they're just having a good time. You know, I'll be a monkey. I'd be Caesar from
Okay.
Planet of the Apes, but not like the
Great.
depressing part, like not the sad Caesar.
Oh,
I'd be happy Caesar. Yeah.
okay. We like Happy Caesar. You can
Yeah.
command an entire just
Yes, I could be king. I wouldn't want to be President
group.
Caesar. I'd
Yep.
want to be King Caesar. You know, you just
There you go.
listen, none of this no need for debate or question. You just listen and that's it. And that'll be good. And
Communism.
yourself, you got to tell us what yours would be before we sign off.
Oh, what would I be? Hmm. Darn, you turned the tables. It's a great question. What would I want to be? I've always wanted to be the fastest person on the planet. So
Whoa.
I did want to go to the Olympics for track and field. So hence how I was able to paint that picture. uh,
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, that
oh.
was a lot more predetermined than my response.
What would I want to be? And it has to be the person, right? Um, you know what? Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, but
Is he
like
still holding the
2.0.
world record? 2.0. Okay.
2.0. Yeah,
So Lorena Bolt. We'll do that.
there you go.
Nice. Good choice. Yeah.
Exactly.
Being the fastest person, man, and just being able to tell people too, I'm the fastest person
Hmm.
in the world. You know, those are definitely bragging rights. That'd be a good one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got to say that in high school for hurdles, but I can't say that about the world.
Yeah, just be the fast. Just hang out with a little bit slower people. You'll be the fastest person in your group. I love being the fastest person among people. And if I'm
Yeah.
not the fastest, maybe I'll turn it into a push-up contest, and we'll see. But
Okay. Nice.
all that, all that being said, Lauren, I really appreciated our conversation today. If people want to connect with you, maybe they're even interested in trying to find a social media manager for themselves or their business. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can just shoot me an email at Lauren, Lauren, P for pink, SMMA at gmail.com. So that's Lauren P SMMA at gmail.com.
That's great. And do you want people to follow you online on Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, they can go ahead and find me on Instagram. That's LaurenEunie, Lauren Innie.
Okay, great. Well, again, Lauren, I really appreciated you being on the podcast today. Thank you so much. And for all of you who are listening or watching, thank you for being a part of the Hidden Potential podcast today. I hope that this conversation was edifying for you. I hope that made you laugh, that it helped you to feel like we're all just connecting and growing the best that we can. But until next time, have a great life. Well, there you have it. I hope that this episode was meaningful and edifying for your leadership and your growth within your ministry and organization. Could you do me a favor? Could you leave a rating and review for this podcast? It'd really help me out and help others be able to see this show in their feed. You can also visit homerhargrove.com to be able to learn more, connect, or become one of our supporters. Until next time, have a great life.